Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages, welcome back to AussieVerse, where today we have a very special episode that is near and dear to, I think, all three of our hearts here. I am OmniBeau, joined by the face you may have forgotten. I hope you haven't, because he's back today to join us. It is Ryan Morio. Sorry, I just realised I don't know how to introduce you, Ryan, anymore, because he's got his own YouTube channel, which you'll be able to find in the description. And the first time today, a supporter of our channel since day one, we have AussieComicDude. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Happy to be back, especially to discuss this game, because I've got some very controversial thoughts.
I've heard. If you do want to hit us up at Instagram, please go check out the new handle _AussieVerse, where you can ask if you want to be on the show or just start a chat with us like AussieComicDude and, you know, become friends, man. Or you're a comic book creator, you're a writer, you've even just got a collection that you want to share. Come on down. And you can also find our graphic designer on Instagram, A51_designs. If you do want to check out these boys individually, then you can go to AussieComicDude's Instagram right there. Go check him out. And last but definitely not least, Ryan's YouTube channel can be found right there, all about gaming, which is why he is here. That is enough of the plug-in. Let's get down to some loving. First off, the one thing I do want to say is I have a massive shout out to two good friends, Simple Simon and Captain Saro, because I hadn't had a PlayStation since, 15 years, maybe more. I haven't played games in that long either, man. And I've been wanting a PlayStation for so long. Finally came up with the cash. They hooked me up with one, not only one, but it was the Spider-Man one. And it was the perfect time to get a new PlayStation in general, because I had Spider-Man coming out, had the new Mortal Kombat coming out, had all this stuff. And I speed played Spider-Man 1, speed played Miles Morales. Oh, look at that. Speed played Miles Morales. And now we're here to talk about Spider-Man 2. That is enough coming from me. Let's hear from these boys.
All right, first issue with the game, the title, Spider-Man 2. That's such a bad title in 2023, because which Spider-Man 2 are you talking about? Are you talking about Spider-Man 2, Enter Electra, Spider-Man 2, the movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the game, or Spider-Man 2, the game on Xbox and PS2?
Did you see the video of the guy that rocks up and he's like, dude, I got Spider-Man 2, and he's playing the one you just showed then? He's like, I'm still going to play this one. I'm playing this.
Like, from my perspective, dumb title, should have had a subtitle.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there after that logic. That's fair enough.
I think, is it just because there's two Spider-Man as their basic logic is? That's where they've gone with it. And then that's it. Yeah, I can't say anything. I was about to spoil something. I can't say that yet.
It should have been called Spider-Man.
It's the third game too, so
yeah.
Like, I get it. It's the first full-fledged sequel, but third game, I don't give a crap. It's Spider-Man 3.
Fair enough. So where do you want to go from here?
Kick off with the gameplay, since we're gonna be spoiler-free for the first chunk. That's the easiest way to stay spoiler-free, because you can just get into what you liked about the game, how it plays, and all the new mechanics that come with it.
Well, I freaking loved it, man. I thought it was incredible. Every moment of it. I just loved it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
In terms of gameplay, I'd say it's the best Spider-Man game. Like, 100%, especially when it comes to stuff like traversal. Definitely the best traversal in a Spider-Man game, due to many things that they have put into this game specifically, like the web wings, which allow you to get over the bridges very easily, which has been a big annoyance in every Spider-Man game up to this point. Because if you get to a bridge, it's immediately just like, I have to walk or very specifically time my swings. This time, you can just go through an air tunnel straight across.
There was actually a moment in the first Spider-Man game where I was searching for a backpack, and it was obviously some sort of glitch. I don't know what, but I got stuck under the bridge and I couldn't get out of it. And I felt like such an idiot because I kept left, right, up, down. And I was sitting there for like 5-10 minutes just trying to get out of under this bridge, and I couldn't do it. So I had to just restart from a previous checkpoint, and it annoyed the crap out of me.
So did
There was a
you?
bit of that this game.
Yeah. Did you, Bo, play 1 and Miles very quickly before number 2?
Yeah.
I was going to say,
so,
you just PlayStation,
Yeah.
you've done it very quick. And the mechanics, you'd notice such a difference from doing 1 Miles and then this. The mechanics are so different between all 3. But I think it's in a favor. It's worked very well, the mechanics, what they've done now, especially with doing the webs now, not having to freeze it like number 1 you had to, and things like that.
Well, what blew me away, a conversation that Ryan and I had, Ryan, is I obviously loved the first game. I'm not a huge Miles fan. I appreciate him and I like him, but I'm not a huge fan, right? I'm too old school and I like my Spider-Man Peter Parker. But I loved Miles. I loved the storyline, the heart in it with that relationship with that girl. You know, it really, I just loved it. And I remember telling Ryan that, and Ryan's like, nah, Spider-Man 1's better. And I'm like,
I agree.
Yeah.
Like how I think of it, I think the story of the first game is better, but the second game has the better gameplay.
I couldn't do Miles. Yeah, I agree. Miles' story as much. I was like, I was grinding to get through that because I knew this was coming. I wanted to make sure I got that done before that happened. But at number 1, I played through like 3 times. Like, I love that story.
I've played the first game about 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, nice.
And then Miles, I think I've done 5 times as well.
Jeez.
So I've played those games and know them like the back of my hand. You can see very iterative design across all of the games as well, where they'll introduce a feature in Spider-Man 1, but come back in Miles Morales, they'll improve it a little bit. They'll introduce something in Miles Morales, like the powers he had, which became the ability wheel in this game, which became very iterative to this game. They had to do something for Peter. They ended up doing the combat wheel and the gadget wheel as well, in order to change things up and iterate a little bit.
Yeah.
I like that it was still on screen, but not enough for it to like take your eye away from everything that's so beautiful and like all the cinematics. But then you could quickly just look down, but it didn't gravitate so much of your eyes away by having mechanics there.
I find that with games, the less HUD that is on screen, the better.
Yeah.
Because it just takes away from the image that is on screen, like you've said. But one thing I did find, especially with the gadget wheel, I didn't like the gadgets that they had in this game, and that there were less of them too.
There was many less compared to what you could do last time, yeah.
Yeah, there was 4 this time, whereas
like
the first game there was like 8 gadgets.
So you could all 3 of us could be playing a different Spider-Man, like the style of him, definitely then.
Like, I also found that it heavily affected stealth as well, how they stripped back the gadgets, because the gadgets didn't really have as much utility as they did in the first game, where you had like the tripwire, the web bomb, you could perfectly place them, lure enemies where you need to. This game added the web line, which was a cool addition, and also being able to take down 2 enemies at once. That's another good addition to stealth, but they stripped it back too much.
Do you have the patience for the stealth? Because I certainly don't.
Yeah. I love stealth.
And then I saw, I don't know if you guys seen the creator, he even admitted like there's not as much stealth compared to the previous ones, and like I would just go in with like 100 enemies coming at me. And that's why I loved, we'll talk about later, a certain challenge with certain character. Like I love those ones because it's like you're bombarded. Like I love that. You have to be so quick and get combos like up to 100 and things like that sort of thing. And
one of my favorite things to do in the first game was to just perform combos.
Yeah, me too. Love it. That's why I think that I was sad that I didn't like that you didn't get rewarded for getting crazy combos this time. Where number 1, you had to get like 50 to 100, but this we never got any of that in this one.
And the system they had for health and special attacks in this game as well, that was brought back from the first one and Miles, I didn't like that you couldn't just use half of the bar like you could in the previous games to regenerate your health. You had to have a full bar. The previous games, you could go, I want to use half of my bar to heal up, and then I want to use my full one to go and use my takedowns.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't like that they took that option away.
You had to wait a lot more.
I dug the little things like that they added with, like, you know, the oh god, I'm struggling with the word. You know, where they get the webs and you boing. You know, I love that stuff, man.
I've seen
That was cool.
stuff on YouTube with that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. But even just the start of the game, the very, very start, blew me away. You know, it was perfect in my opinion. Absolutely perfect.
The start is very, very impressive. It's a good way to just get right into the action without getting into spoilers. And it really shows off what the PS5 can do as well.
But then I loved also how much, and even the creators admitted this, that a boss fight is a boss fight. I think in the other ones, it used to be like one or two, like you fight like, say, Kingpin or something, and then it'd be over. But this, you had to work, and it just kept going, and it was a bit more, not a grind isn't the word, but you had to actually work for it. And certain bosses were harder than others, but everything felt like a boss at the end of the day, especially with that as well as like scales with the first one straight away. Like, I honestly think the start was so perfect, as like nearly better than half what the MCU projects have come out at the start of the year, sort of thing. Like,
oh, don't get me started about that. Yeah.
The boss fights definitely took a bit of inspiration from stuff like From Software's games like Elden Ring and Dark Souls.
Yeah.
With the addition of the parry, where you'd have to time when you need to parry in order to disrupt them, and then you can just go in for your attack.
Yeah, definitely.
Which
I didn't even know what that word. I didn't even know what that meant, and I had to Google it. It kept saying parry, parry, and I'm like, what?
And if you didn't, you get attacked. If you didn't do it, you would get smoked. Yeah.
Like, there was a boss fight later in the game, without getting into spoilers, where I was getting smoked because I just couldn't time the parries correctly.
Yeah, I reckon I know who that will be.
And like you said, bro, with the swinging, they added so many moves to it this time. Like, you could do the loop-de-loop. You could slingshot yourself around the city.
Slingshot, that's the word, God.
And I really loved how you could, it was later on where you push circle and you could dart around buildings a lot quicker. So you could like cut like an L shape, and you could actually keep the speed up a lot more that way. It was really cool.
Even the tricks that you could do now while swinging just looked a hell of a lot better. Like, the one that made me laugh was, I think it's Miles, where he just lies down as he's going down like that. That was fantastic.
Oh, he could do that in his game anyway.
Oh, could he? I didn't pick up on that in that one, but I saw it in the new one, and I went, yeah, that's fantastic.
Did you do the Rubik's Cube from the highest building with Peter?
The Rubik's? No.
Yeah, if you pick Spider-Man Noir, he does the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, really?
If you go from the tallest building and you go down and then you do a trick, he pulls out a Rubik's Cube and he starts to do it.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. I keep finding new things because I was so pumped just to get through the story. Like, the other day I said to Ryan, did you know you can do yoga in the park? Yeah. No. Peter Parker finds like people doing yoga and he just joins them and does it with them. And there's a few things like that. And it's like, man, that is so cool.
Yeah, like you can go and ride bikes around New York City. It's not just that start of the game point or the mission where you can do it. You can just go do it whenever.
When that mission came and I got on a bike, I'm like, am I playing Grand Theft Auto? Like, what is going on? And then I was like, am I playing 2K? Like, this is weird. Yeah.
I also liked the performance options that they had in the game as well. So like this game, and a lot of the previous games too, so they would have various performance options like performance mode and quality mode. So performance mode, I can't play any Spider-Man game anymore unless it's performance mode, because I need it to be 60 frames per second so that it just feels smoother. Otherwise, it just feels painful to me.
Lag. Yeah.
Did they always have the option in the other games too, where you can take off, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but you take off the gravity, you know, where it makes it more real. Yeah, see, I love that.
The swing assist?
No, I haven't done it
into this game.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
So for those that don't know, the swing assist, if you take it off, it makes your gameplay more realistic, where if you're swinging and you're going from a great height and you don't press the right buttons to continue swinging, your Spider-Man will go splat on the ground. And that was a great little addition. Yeah.
Do you get injured?
You get injured, yeah.
You lose
You
health.
can turn fall
Yeah.
damage on as well. So if you
Yeah,
do
right.
those two things, it's the perfect mixture for mayhem.
Yeah, I loved that.
And it's a thing they added because there was criticism with the first game that the swing was too slow and too easy, and there wasn't enough depth to it. So yeah, when they got around to the second game, they went, "Here you go. Don't complain anymore."
I thought they did pretty well with the graphics. I was quite impressed with the for what we're getting sort of thing. It was definitely an upgrade, and like I only just finished Miles. I definitely noticed a difference going between the two. You guys,
big time.
There's definitely a big difference, especially when you look at the world density of New York. Like, you'll just see that there's so much more going on screen at a time.
Yeah.
Like, there'll be a lot more cars, a lot more people walking along the street as you swing.
not as many puddles. When they had the puddle controversy with number one.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that, bro.
wouldn't know about that, bro.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
you go right.
before the game was released, the first game, they showed off a gameplay snippet. It's from the first game. It's the bit where you go to the Kingpin construction site and you first encounter like Mr. Negative's goons going for their gang war. And that bit, it had a lot of puddles. And the game looked vastly, I wouldn't say vastly, it looked a little bit better than what was actually released. So then game is in like its week before it comes out. People are starting to get their hands on the game. And then suddenly there's this big controversy over, Insomniac, they removed my puddles. They showed me all these puddles
huge.
in this gameplay, and it's not here. Where are my puddles?
Everyone lost it. Everyone, the internet blew up about puddles. Like, it was
Jeez. Okay. I did not know that.
Another thing you wouldn't know, they changed the face for Spider-Man Remastered.
No,
So
I do remember. I do remember that. I read that. Yeah.
What about Mary Jane? Do you reckon it's changed a bit this one?
Well, the hairstyle
They
has.
said that it's the same model. It's
I
the
reckon
same face model, but
it doesn't look it. I've talked. I like it, but other people are like, nah, she looks more like boyish sort of thing. I thought it's kind of suit what she was doing, kind of thing.
the only issue I had with MJ is that sometimes she would just like look into your soul, like with the eyes. Sometimes she just looked off.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
the thing that I hated the Mary Jane parts in Spider-Man 1. I hated playing them.
Everyone hates them.
Yeah, and I'm a big Mary Jane fan. But in this one, it was great. Every time you played Mary Jane, I was used to saying to myself, "Oh no," but it was cool.
I enjoyed it. I thought they knew, they listened. They definitely listened, and they realized. I thought some was a little bit far-fetched. Like, later on, there was like, say, too many bad guys. And you're like, are you kidding? Like, how has she managed to get around all of this? But most of it was pretty cool.
They definitely put a bit of emphasis onto those sections and making them stand out as opposed to the first game, where it was very much the same thing. And it wasn't fun to play until like the very end of the game with her.
Yeah. Definitely.
So we've said a lot of positive things. Ryan, I think you've got some negative.
With gameplay, not. I've gotten into all of my gripes with it. Like, the gameplay, I don't really have an issue with. It's mainly story stuff I've got a lot of issues with.
Fair enough.
But I do want to bring up some of the performance of the game again. So the game, I don't think it's as polished as the original was at release, or even Miles Morales. It's like there was a variety of glitches, like characters and pieces of clothing would disappear.
Yeah.
So
now, did you? Sorry to cut you off, because I've seen lots. Did you have the disc version or downloaded?
Downloaded.
Same.
See, this is where it's really funny. I've seen other massive Instagram and influencers type people complain like crazy at the start. I have the disc version. I had one issue throughout the whole game. No glitches, I think it's a download issue. So it'd be very interesting to see if I gave you the disc, Ryan, if you had much of a difference.
To my understanding, when people were reviewing it, it was fine. It's the day one patch that actually caused all the issues.
Yeah, interesting.
Because the big glitch that I saw was when you're chasing the lizard at some point, you're climbing on a building, and for some people, the lizard's hand was just like through the wall, and it was just there, like on a wall, and there was nothing you could do. You couldn't get to him. You couldn't do anything, and the lizard's hand was just there.
Yeah, interesting.
Like I've seen some where it's like the start screen, and it's just Peter and Miles's neck and head floating because there's no clothes there. It's just them floating.
Wow.
I've seen sometimes the texture for the suit won't load in, so you'll just be a cube.
Oh,
haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
One that happened to one of my friends. So the hit detection wasn't working on the ground, so he just fell through the ground during a mission and had to restart it.
Jeez.
I saw another influencers was covered. Everyone turned into lightning, so everyone was just yellow. All pedestrians, everything were all just yellow, and he's like, "What's happening?" Like Spider-Man's just turned everybody into lightning.
I saw another one where MJ had an extending neck, so it would constantly go up and down.
Oh man, I hope there's a YouTube video out there with all of these glitches. That'd be funny to see.
I'll send you the clip after this is done.
Yeah, cool.
One that I ran into was I had button prompts that just weren't working during the game. So like, there's a particular part in the game where you're playing as Miles, and he unlocks a new ability, and you have to hit a specific set of buttons, and it just wouldn't register until I reloaded the checkpoint.
Oh, that's annoying.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Now, so the main thing I want to get into with discussing these bugs is that I don't expect the game to be perfect when it releases, but anything that disrupts the experience of the story, that's a no-no. If it's funny, that's fine. Yeah. Spider-Cube, fine. But stuff like clothes disappearing during cutscenes, no.
Yeah.
That's why I had to stop Star Wars, the new one. I don't know if you had issues around. I couldn't play. I cracked it. I'm like this. I loved the first one more than ever, and then this new one just had glitch after glitch, and I'm like, these graphics are so bad. Like, I was very impressed with Spider-Man versus that new Star Wars game kind of thing. Like, yes, there's little things, but they've done quite well to get away with compared to other games that are really bad on day one release right now, sort of thing.
Like, the way I see it, if EA put out a game in this state, they would get ranked for it. Sony, for the most part, they have not gotten much blowback for this.
Fair enough.
Did you want to get into spoilers?
If that's the way you want to take this now, we certainly can. I mean, there's definitely things I want to talk about in it.
You could start with the story earlier on, and then, because, like, what's it been now, 2 weeks? Like, you could get away with spoilers, like, kind of that halfway tipping point kind of thing. Like, that opening scene is just phenomenal. Like, we did touch on that, but, like, that's...
Right. Let's do it.
All right. So what I found with the story is that I found that it was very badly paced, and it just felt a bit disconjointed.
How
and
so?
a couple of the elements that I found contributed to this were Harry Osborn in particular, and the chemistry between the characters. So the thing about this game is they never actually give you a reason to care about Harry Osborn, apart from going, he's Pete's best friend. You have to like him. That's all they do. They never give you a good reason to actually like the character.
See,
when he eventually becomes Venom later in the game, I just don't care.
Well, see, okay, so it's kind of hard for me to comment because I come from a place of growing up with Spider-Man and loving the relationship between Harry and Peter Parker in the comics. And my favorite comic of all time is Spectacular Spider-Man 200, The Death of Harry Osborn. So I don't know if I'm being biased or not, which is very, very possible. But when Harry first came into the storyline of this game, my first thought was, I don't like the hair.
Yeah,
because
they
that's
look like twins. They
yeah.
look like
But then I got over it, and when it had the gameplay of him and Peter in the flashback of going through the school and everything, that kind of made me start to care because it started to make me realize they've had a long relationship and that they are best friends. And it made me remember my teenage years of doing dodgy stuff around a school and, that sort of stuff. So I disagree with you there. Yeah, I think it made me feel for Harry there.
if
Like,
they didn't
I'd argue you don't spend enough time with him in the game before that point to actually really care. Like in the first game with Otto, you were constantly going back to him and you would slowly see his development. In this game, once Peter gets the symbiote, you go visit him 2 times and then that's it.
I think they try and cheat and cut up time by then using Miles as a scapegoat. And then Miles is like, oh, I've lost my mentor. I've lost him because he's gone to Harry. You hear Miles constantly sooking that, oh, he's just busy with Harry. He's busy with Harry. But then I think if they didn't do those missions, as you said, Bo, at the start, like you wouldn't have that relationship. Or as we are like understand the comics and things like that, we know already and feel that connection where the average punter might not know. But I agree with them what you're saying, Ryan, that you do go so much back to Doc Ock. But I think they just I like that the story still had so many characters and so much. They tried to fit enough in there with everybody without still trying to cut it too thin. Really, at the end of the day.
Like with Miles specifically, I also felt that he had no involvement in that plot towards the end.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
Don't do a really good job of establishing a relationship between Harry and Miles. There's one bit in the game where after he becomes Agent Venom, pretty much, where you can encounter him during crimes. And there's one conversation during the game between them before Harry becomes Venom. But outside of that, there's no relationship and he has no involvement with that. He has no investment.
You got a point between the relationship between Miles and Harry, because there was a point where I can't remember if it was Harry calls Miles or Miles calls Harry, but one of them calls each other. And I did think to myself, why is he calling him? They're not really friends yet. They're mutual. They've got a mutual friend in Peter Parker. But yeah, I thought that was a little odd, but I just ignored it, thinking it might have just been me.
I thought they did well though with everything. Like they've advertised the whole thing being Venom, like as the main boss, and he was really by the end. But then Kraven being that secondary sub big enough. But then to get like a Sandman at the beginning, and then you get the Lizard, and then you get like all these love characters, and then to pull our heartstrings with like having number one, and then they're killing off like Vulture and Scorpion. Like that is just my jaw just kept dropping every time. Like they're using like A class, not even B class like characters. They're still holding on to all this A class sort of stuff. And like he still haven't even reached Venom yet. And like I was like, this is fantastic that we're getting all this amazing content before we even get to the Venom saga yet. I really enjoyed that was there, where that's where I find the MCU's been so disconnected. They try and put in like a B grade kind of character, but like this game just executed, and you wish that some of these writers could be involved in the movies. This is what I kept getting frustrated with, that you wish that these game characters, like we were so spoiled with into Spider-Verse and things, like any of these kind of crossovers to go into some part of MCU would just be out of this world.
Yeah, and that's exactly a point that I wanted to touch on, because that's 100% right. What really frustrates me is I've had to adapt watching the MCU and come to the terms of what I get in the comics is not what I'm going to get in the movies, right? It took me a long time to realize that the MCU is not made for me. It's made for people that don't read comics. Yeah. So I ended up dropping my opinions about how this character should look like this and this relationship should be like this. I dropped it, but for a good long while, I was really against quite a lot. And now you see the game where these villains are just perfect. Amazing. Absolutely perfect. Perfect Kraven. Perfect Venom. Perfect
Tombstone.
Every single villain, all of them. Lizard, like, okay, so in Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield with the Lizard, I hated the way the Lizard looked. Absolutely hated it because it didn't look anything like the lizard from the comics. And in the game, you could sort of say the same thing. The lizard doesn't look like that, but it was so good that I just didn't care at that stage, you know? Tombstone, Kingpin, Mysterio, you know, it was all just so much better than anything in the movies.
The thing I like,
I can't get that.
Like the Insomniac games, they tend to start with the classic comic design.
Yeah.
Like from some of the stuff you could see in the backbacks from the first game.
Yeah.
Like with Mysterio's helmet and the part of the Shocker's original uniform. And then they transition into their own thing when you see them in modern day.
Give us a bit of both. Yeah, it's really clever that they can incorporate that and give us that little touches that we want from the comic books and things like that. But like, it's nearly frustrating as a word. Like, how are they execute? Yes, the story isn't perfect, but we slaughter the MCU with other things. But everything, my jaw was like constantly like, oh my God, they've executed this. This is amazing. I didn't expect that. Like, the character development of the bad guys was just outstanding. What they did, it's crazy.
Like even going back to Spider-Man, even going back to Spider-Man 1, the reveal of the Sinister Six, that scene, I sat there watching it going, oh my, this is so cool. Like, how have we not gotten that in a movie, that sort of a moment, you know?
One of the best things about that is they showed that before the game was even out. So that was one of the last things they showed, and they didn't show you Doc Ock. They hid him throughout all the marketing material.
I don't remember that. Yeah,
so they just went, Peter has a mentor. Peter has a mentor. Peter's mentor. And then when you get to the games, it's Doc Ock.
Did you guys realize? Did you guys realize who Venom was going to be? What character?
Yeah. So everyone thought before the game was out that it was going to be Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
And then the minute I get into the game and I hear his first line is, "We're going to heal the world," I went, "Yep, he's going to be Venom."
Which brings me to another point. I am a massive, massive Venom fan, massive Eddie Brock fan, and I have never really been a fan of the black costume sagas in other material before, other than the comic. I haven't liked it in the cartoons. The 90s cartoon I did like.
See, that's all I knew. I didn't know as much. Man, I know that you love it, but I didn't know as much. I knew the cartoon. Now I want to dive more into the Venom world.
But what's shocked me is that what I said before, I want my comics to be the same, and I'm such an Eddie Brock fan. It shocks me that I can honestly and truly say that the alien costume saga in this game was so brilliant, so well done, and it didn't even have Eddie Brock.
No.
Like, I just can't believe that they pulled it off so well.
It was creepy. It was dark. It was creepy. Like when my favorite bit nearly in the entire game was when Mary Jane was in that, like, they're in the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And she just goes, and he just goes, "Run." Like, holy shit. When he just said the word "run," like that just blew my mind. Like, this is twisted. This is evil. I was more like, scared isn't the word, but I thought that was such an impactful thing more than when Venom got Kraven. Like that, I thought that was just spooky.
I agree.
The good thing, especially about that section and a lot of the MJ sections, is they're very horror and Resident Evil inspired.
Agree. It was like the jump factor. They gave you that more than just, we're in a Spider-Man game. Like, it gave you that horror element type of thing.
And that's one of the first times you hear Tony Todd as Venom as well.
Yes, I agree. Because I was like, we actually haven't heard him much. I was surprised throughout the game. We didn't really get much of him, but then, you really appreciate when you did hear him.
Like, I'm going to come in with a bit of a controversial point here. I didn't like how they handled the symbiote towards the end. I thought they didn't really give it much of a character. It was very one-dimensional in how it was handled, especially towards the end, with it just becoming an alien that wants to take over the world and no motivation beyond that.
Fair enough. I chalked that down to the symbiote is still new. It's the first time it's experienced humanity, so it hasn't grown at all. And you know, that was very similar to the beginnings of the symbiote with in the comics. You know what I mean? Where now the symbiote, you could say itself is actually a good guy. You know, it's got its own personality.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if I go to Craven and I ask you, what was his motivate? What was his goal?
It was to have the greatest hunt before he dies.
Okay, why was he doing that?
Because nothing's more important to him than the thrill of the hunt.
He wasn't
Okay,
he wasn't getting a thrill anywhere else, so he needed that next chapter. That's why he wanted Venom, because that was the ultimate. He wasn't getting a thrill from anybody else.
I want to do the same thing with Venom. What was his goal?
I chopped it. So hang on, Venom as in Harry and the symbiote.
The symbiote.
Oh, the symbiote itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. I guess I just put it down to survival. The symbiote's just trying to survive, trying to find a host and live. But I do see the hole in that logic.
Because, like, yeah, from my perspective, I think Craven was a much stronger villain in this game than the symbiote, even though the symbiote had a lot more setup.
Is it? Or I was about to counteract, is because we got more of Craven's understory and standing, but we didn't of the symbiote. Because with Craven, we got like more of a back, and it was a bit longer. Because if we really look at it, Craven was so much longer in the game versus Venom. And like, you're like, I want to get this guy. He's doing all these bad things. I really want to go for Craven versus Venom sort of thing. But then from my understanding is the story, mostly Oscorp's found the symbiote. And that's why then, obviously, with the next DLC, there's more symbiotes. It's all because of Oscorp. Is that where the story's,
Yeah, I would assume so.
So like, the way I took it was that, like, after the game has ended, there's like remnants of it that are lying around.
Yeah.
And that's why your hives are still around. There's certain symbiotes that are just floating around. And the thing I found with this game, and I did really like how they handled the Black Suit Saga, especially at the start. The section with MJ at the end, so good.
With Scream?
So good.
Scream.
When she becomes Scream, is that what you're talking about?
No, not even when she screamed. When, like, the very last MJ section where you play as her.
Be more specific.
Oh, it's when
the MJ section where you're going to detonate the bomb and plant it.
Oh,
yeah. She was chasing. She was going to get the symbiote.
Yeah. That was
like
good.
The last act of the game. It's very Web of Shadows inspired, and there's even an Easter egg for it in the game.
Oh, okay. I never played that one. But what honestly, like a friend of mine said, because they just know how hardcore a Venom fan I am, and especially the Donny Cates run, King in Black and all that, right? They got so much of that from that storyline.
Really?
And they did, because Venom never really had wings before that storyline. The spiral is the sign of Null, which is the symbiote god. And so it would have been, if this game came out 2 years ago, it would have been a very different Venom. And I'm just so glad that, like, because there's nothing more, as you know, being fans, when you read a comic, there is nothing more thrilling than seeing a storyline that you love, or a costume that you love, or something that you love on screen, you know? And I don't know if you saw, one of my TikToks was the moment that Venom went and his wings came out and he started flying. I was looking at the screen like, and my partner grabbed out the phone and she went, I've got to record this, like, you know.
Dude,
and
I saw you. Is that the video you posted on Instagram as well, and you had like spoilers at the bottom or something?
Yeah.
Do you know how tempted? Because I hadn't finished the game yet, and I was like, you know, like the naughty kid. I was like, I want to watch what's happening, but I don't. I watched like 3 times, like trying to watch a second more. I'm like, nah, stay away. It's okay. Just wait till the end.
Because when she was recording me, I said to her, be very careful about what you can hear in that video, because I don't want to spoil it for people, you know. But then, like, dude, when that happened, I could not believe it. And then when you saw all the spirals and all that as well, I'm like, this is like unbelievable. This is exactly what I want. Like, I don't think we'll ever get this in a movie. And
We won't.
just,
we're not going to get a quarter of this in a movie.
Oh, man.
Well, I know we're talking. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. You know,
Believe
and a friend
it or
of mine
not-
turned around. A friend of mine turned around and saw that TikTok, and he's gone, I've been playing games for years, and I have never had that look on my face playing a game before. So what was it? And I had to tell him, and he's like, I still don't get it, you know?
I haven't been this shocked in a game in a very long time. I love God of War. Like, I've been playing games a little bit. I was enriched by this whole. Yes, the game is not perfect, but I was genuinely the most enriched in this story. Like, out of anything, it just grabbed me.
This it's definitely not the most captivated I've been with the story in a long time. That would probably go to maybe The Last of Us Part 2. Because that's an experience.
Yeah, careful.
But how did you guys feel about Craven?
I loved him. Absolutely loved him. And it makes it even worse because I'm going to put money on the fact that the Craven movie that's coming out, I'm going to be really annoyed with. I mean, I'm really going to try not to be. I'm going to walk in with really low expectations, and there's already things that don't make sense to me in that trailer about who Craven is. So to have what I think is pretty much the perfect Craven in this game,
I agree.
And you know you're going to have something different in this movie. It's so sad. It's so disappointing. But to answer your question, in the game, fantastic.
They do a really good job of establishing, especially him in his very first two scenes.
Yeah.
The one in the jungle where it opens up and then
Magic.
it's got the guy hunting him and then he gets the upper hand and kills him and then decides, I've never heard of New York before.
Yeah.
There's lots of people in there I can hunt. Let's go to New York.
And wasn't it brilliant how with the first guy you see in that Craven scene, if you don't read comics, because my partner saw that hunter guy.
You'd think it's Craven.
And she goes, that's Craven.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no,
it's not. And then boom,
They did so well as well that because a lot of things can just all of us, I think it was in the first game, like you'd start off with whoever the bad guy was, then those type of bad guys would be on the street everywhere. But it was very well established. Craven's come, but he's brought his army to New York. So that's why they're all around. Then when Venom comes up, that's why he's got those people. So they established it very well. That's why those things were happening in the town. Sandman, all these people around because it was very clever what they've done that way. And Craven's guys were hard to fight. Craven's guys, you had to parry them. They were hard to some of them were stronger than what they've done in the past, especially in their caves, in like especially the underground sort of bunkers and stuff. Like they were, if you're not doing stealth, where you're just going in to try and fight 100 of them at once.
Yeah.
It's not just every faction having the means to fund an army, like the first game.
Correct. Yeah.
I really enjoyed Craven, and I wish there was more of him. Yeah. In all honesty, like I don't feel like you get enough of him in the game. I kind of wish they involved Miles in that plot a little bit more. And I wish they involved Miles a little bit more in the game in general. Because I feel like he gets the weaker stuff in comparison to Peter's plot. So like Peter's dealing with the symbiote and then Miles is dealing with Mr. Negative. Yeah. Which, while a little bit interesting, it feels like a downgrade.
For sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, as I mentioned before, I've never been a Miles fan. But since playing these 3 games, I now actually have a kind of a little love for Miles. I definitely like him a lot more now, and I've got a lot more respect for him, but I don't know how similar he is because I've only read from his creation to pretty much when he joined the 616. I haven't read his solo series after that yet. So I'm not sure just how on point they are, but if Miles is pretty much the same character as he is in the game, then he's a pretty cool character, man. He's really cool.
The good thing about Miles, especially with the games, is that he's pretty much a blank slate, so they can just do whatever they want, which I'm pretty sure after this game, they are just going to do whatever they want.
See, it's going to be very interesting because, like, I'm like you, Bo. I'm like original OG Spidey, like, love that. And now, like, if we say move on throughout the story, we can see the next game is going to be purely going to be around Miles. Maybe that's why they've now given more attention to Peter in this game, more than so then, because with what's going on with the story, we probably really think it's going to be majority Miles, which for me, that hurts a bit. So I'll be very interested to see how they're going to juggle and handle that sort of thing. I hope from stuff that I've seen online that the stories might gravitate, then you might get Peter later. But it seems like the games, the comics, the movies now, it is all kind of really moving towards Miles. Like he is the new big Spider-Man sort of thing compared to what we've had.
I think it's going to be very, very disappointing if in the next game, when we're obviously going to get Green Goblin and all that, it's not Peter fighting him. I think that's going to be disappointing.
You're going to get Peter 100% because Miles has no connection to Norman.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, no connection there. So just having them come in after him would make no sense.
My theory is that that Norman will come in and he's going to like hurt someone and they're going to bring Peter out of retirement. That's kind of like what I think there'll be all this like kind of like a Craven. There'll be someone to piss off Miles for ages, and then Norman's going to finally step in, and then that will then draw Peter out of retirement because then you're going to have to fight Goblin and things like that. And obviously
does Miles even have his own? I'm sure he does, but I don't even know any Miles villains. All I know is the Prowler. Yeah, but that's it. In all of these comics, I know he had his own Clone Saga. I know he had his I've seen a few like Ultimatum and a couple of other villains, but I just don't know his.
Does he jump in? Does he fight most of Peter's, like, say, the Sinister Six crew and all? Does he get to fight them a lot or not? Or is he just recycling, or does he get all new ones? It'll be interesting.
They tend to recycle, especially once he hits 616. But that's the main reason why with the Miles game they just went and reinvented the Tinkerer for that game.
Yeah. I didn't mind that.
But
what did you guys think? Sorry, what did you guys think when you'd get sucked in by the negatives when you're doing like those runs?
Loved it.
You enjoyed that?
I loved that. You're talking about the negative stuff, right?
When you were like, he would take you in and it'd be all black.
Yeah.
Constantly talking to and things. And
I love that. I thought that was
same
so
with the Venom
cool.
when you're inside Venom's, when you're inside Peter, when you're trying to like take him out, sort of thing, like inside the minds of him and things like that.
Yeah, I thought that was all fantastic. Absolutely.
I felt that was just a lazy way of telling us a character's motivations because they couldn't convey it any other way.
Yeah, interesting
Fair
point.
enough. Well, one of the things that I did love about the side missions is the Mysteriums.
My favorite.
How coul were they?
Loved it. Because I love Mysterio as a character, and I was really hoping he was going to be involved in this. And I was like, this is epic. And I as soon as I did one, I wanted to find them all around the map. I loved doing that.
Same. Yeah. And especially when you can get ranked in bronze, silver, and gold.
I wouldn't do it without.
Yeah, right? You want to keep going back and doing them. So, that was a really good thing in it, man. I loved that.
The way I find myself playing these games especially is that I don't do any of the side stuff during the story. That's all after story because I like to stick to my canon story suits.
Yeah,
so I stick to my canon story suits throughout the story, and then after I finish, I go into the side content and I use all the side suits I really like.
But then do you find that you're too strong and you just finish the side missions too quick? Like, or does it balance out? Do they balance it? Because you're so, like, say you've got the symbiote suit, and all of a sudden you're doing like a basic side mission to kill everyone in 2 seconds.
It makes the story more challenging because you're not really upgraded too much.
That's fair. It's the other side. So that's very interesting. It's the other way around for the main story because, you can't upgrade suits.
See, it's funny because I was rushing Spider-Man and Miles Morales to get to Spider-Man 2 in time for its release and be part of the crowd. I found myself going through just the storyline of Spider-Man and Miles and having about a week or so until the game of Spider-Man 2 came out. So then I would go do all the side stuff and complete it all. But with Spider-Man 2 came out, I said to myself, before I move on to the next part of the story, I'm going to take my time and I'm actually going to go do all of the Mysteriums and Spider Bots and Sandmen and all that sort of stuff. And I enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool.
They do a little bit of experimentation with the open world in this game, especially with its side activities, where I don't believe they give you all of a certain side activity at once. So they'll piecemeal it. So they'll give you like, here's a couple spider bots you can go collect. Because they probably found with the first game, when they went, here's all the backpacks, people would just go do that straight away.
Yeah, definitely. I got a question for you boys. If you take out your love of, say, Peter and Miles, just purely about the mechanics of the powers of each character, who did you think it was evenly balanced? Each character got enough, one's stronger than the other, or did you enjoy playing with one more, like playing with Peter more than Miles?
I thought Miles was more powerful. I enjoyed like that.
I definitely
because there was electric bursts and all of that, you know.
Yeah,
I definitely enjoyed playing with Peter more because I really just liked how the symbiote powers work, and now they could just pretty much one shot.
Oh, I enjoyed Peter more, but I thought Miles was more powerful.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you, Bo, on that sort of thing. Yeah.
But Ryan's right too. When you get the symbiote, how cool is it? Because remember, I haven't had a console in 15 years or so. I'm not used to the way controllers work now.
Yeah.
Where not only do they vibrate and stuff, but they actually make sounds out of it, and it's all this symbiote noises and that was
I turn all that off. I hate that stuff.
Oh, really? I love it. I love
when you're Peter and you just do a basic side mission and he's like, he's dark, and you finish, he's like, I could have killed you all. Like, he's really dark when you're just doing basic side missions when you're in the symbiote suit. And
it's funny because when my partner was playing it, and she's just gotten the symbiote on Peter, and he starts to go just a little bit dark, I turn around to her and I'm like, did you hear what he said? And she goes, oh, what? You know? And he goes, I'll smash your face in. And I'm like, that's not Peter Parker, you know? No. That's the symbiote.
He had some amazing dialogue when he had that symbiote on, especially during the Kirk Connors fight. Yeah. Where he's like, this is the reason your wife left you.
Yeah. How dark is he? It's so good.
It's crazy.
All right, so we've got about 8 minutes left. We don't want this to go for more than an hour. So what else have you got for us, Ryan?
All right, we're going to talk about the anti-venom suit, definitely.
Okay.
So anti-venom, it's a very interesting addition in this game, which ties into Martin Lee's redemption arc, which was decently done.
Yeah, that was
and so my big issue with that suit, it looks like cum, and it looks like he's throwing cum at all of his enemies. Using the symbiote abilities, especially when they're just stuck on the walls and stuff.
I only just started playing. I did some side stuff last night, and I think it's when it's either L1 or R1. It's L1 and then triangle, and then he just does the big ball, and then he pushes them all on the wall. The whole wall. I'm with you, Ryan. I was just looking at it, going, "What has just happened here?"
Okay, so that never even occurred to me, and I'm very surprised because I have such a dirty mind. But is this what you were referring to, Ryan, when you said you're going to ruin the game for me?
Yeah. No. This it was more so the plot points I was referring to, but that also applies to, I guess.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I guess we need to talk about like kind of now the post credits, kind of like where's this game going to go?
Or before we do that, what about the flame?
Oh yes, and where's Nelson and Murdoch?
Yeah, well,
they patched that back in, so the sun's back now.
I did see that, but then that kind of I think DLC is coming for that, and if we can get some Daredevil side missions, I am so all for that. Like that's going to be unreal.
Do you think they'll do Carnage as a DLC as well, or do you reckon they'll save him for 3?
I reckon it'll be Dale. I think they'll move away from Venom in the next game. I think they've because like obviously marketing and all that sort of stuff. So I think they want to probably wrap up in my opinion, symbiote type of story by the 3rd game. It'll be because they're going to focus more probably on like getting the Sinister Six back, and then like Goblin and all those sort of story was going to happen. Because that's what I love is that when they're in Peter's head and you start seeing like all the old characters like just falling. I nearly thought we're going to get to fight them all again. I thought that would have been a pretty cool addition, like through his mind.
So the one thing about this game in general is how much it surprises me, and everything that I assume isn't what's happened. So, for example, by the time Venom actually came into the game, I remember being upset because I said to myself, I bet you, because we've had such a long game with Craven already, I remember saying to myself, oh, this isn't good. I bet you Venom is only going to be like the last fight. And I was wrong. There was heaps of symbiote stuff, and I was so blown away, and I loved it. So with Carnage, I would assume that they'd save Carnage for another game. I'm probably going to be wrong. And if they do it for a DLC, I tell you, man, that's going to be absolutely awesome.
Have you done the DLC for number 1 with Black Cat and all that?
Yeah.
It makes more sense to me to do it as a DLC because you've already got all the symbiote assets in this game.
That's true.
Whereas they probably wouldn't want to carry a lot of that over just for a side mission in the third game.
Yeah. I just want to know why was Yuri the hardest out of every boss? Yuri, what? That was like every other boss. Yeah, probably beat it first one, but Yuri, what the hell?
That's
that
the way
one
I
I
felt
had
about
no issues with Yuri. The one that kicked my ass was Craven.
Oh, so you didn't have any issues with Craven? It's probably, but to be fair, you probably didn't have as many powers as me and Bo because you hadn't done much of the stone. No,
mate, I thought the lizard was hard.
No, Yuri was my stopper.
Oh, jeez.
But there was one thing that we didn't really touch on that I think we definitely should. It's a big part of the game. It's probably a very memorable section for you. What about when you got to play as Venom?
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don't get me started, man. Oh, my God.
Have you seen the YouTube people, like some of the Americans? It is hilarious to watch. They just squeal at the TV like, I get to be Venom. This is the best.
No, I haven't seen that.
And supposedly there's a hack that you can free roam with Venom.
Yeah.
They patched it.
Oh no. I was purposely going to play the game again just to get to that bit.
A lot of people have saved it just before you come in, so you can just keep playing that over and over with being Venom.
Oh, dude, that makes me want a Venom game so bad.
They did. That was a surprise.
I think a future thing we will see, I think we'll see 2 interstitial games before the next one.
I have a sneaking suspicion they'll do another Miles game.
Yeah, we'll probably get a Miles game, and then we might get a Venom one too.
Oh, that'd be good, man.
Interesting.
That'd be so.
What about Silk? Is she going to be Spider-Man 3? Is she the playable? What's the go?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you do a Miles interstitial, you can set that stuff up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So imagine the gameplay with Silk where her webbing comes out of her hands.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so different. I can't wait to see that because I don't really care about Silk necessarily, but I think playing her is going to be lots of fun.
I think they'll make I agree. Not many people maybe love that person as a character, but it will make you then enjoy that character more because of what you can actually do with Silk.
Yeah. What else we got, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm all Spider-Man out, in all honesty.
So it fit perfectly. What about yourself, mate? What have you got? Anything else?
I'm still impressed that Ryan did it in 2 days. I don't know how you did that.
He's lying. He's lying.
Is that 2 days 100% or 2 days story?
Oh, I got the platinum in 2.5 days.
That's insane. Well done. Well, how many platinum trophies have you got in your career?
89.
That's wild.
Hang on.
That's very impressive.
There you go. 22, 10, 23.
Jeez.
Will there be a Game Plus? That's going to be interesting as well, like what they're going to do.
They're going to add a bunch of stuff in post-game updates. Like New Game Plus is one of them. Chapter Select is another.
Yeah.
I think they're going to add the ability to change the time of day.
You see, you can do that through Mysterio.
Yeah, but that's not an official way to do it. Like, they'll add an actual setting to do it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they do replayable podcasts as well.
What's this?
See if you can read it. Spider-Man DLC
That's
first
not
look.
official.
Okay. Because I keep seeing videos, man. Like,
Nah,
I've never seen videos on games before, and I keep watching YouTube videos on Spider-Man and all the stuff that's coming out. And
But we've run out of honey.
oh, God. Thank you for reminding me about that. How funny was that line?
Best.
Oh, my God.
I didn't find it funny. I'm gonna be
I
honest.
found it hilarious. I was laughing so hard at that.
Yeah.
That was so good, man.
I think
All out of honey.
the writers deserve a lot of credit for this. I know it's harp about this story, but compared to maybe it's just because we've been so burnt with the MCU in the last couple of years. It's just what's reviving. Like, it's just really refreshing to see something like this around comics and story in a different media kind of thing. It was really refreshing.
Like, I felt that Spider-Man wasn't funny in this game.
He's not overly
Like,
funny,
he's not
but
quippy either.
But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that honey bit, that made me laugh so much. I'm not kidding. That
I want to
really
get you
made me laugh.
I want to get you that bear hat, Bo.
Yeah. I just love it, man, so much. It actually, now I want to get the Midnight Suns game. If any of you guys played that, because Spider-Man's
You
in
won't
that
like
one.
that.
Oh,
See,
wow.
this is the problem. I want to play more. I want, because it revives you again. I want to play. I don't want to play any other game because we're not going to be able to, because it's not going to come close to this.
Yeah.
It's going to be rubbish. They're all going to be so bad, unfortunately.
I could send you a list that will knock your socks off.
Well, see, I just want to keep playing superhero games, wrestling games, and my games that I love, like Doom, Grand Theft Auto, things like that. But one question that I've got, these freaking spider bots, man, it doesn't show you where they are on the map. So you have to go find them yourself. And I get lost because they're obviously in sections. And how are you meant to search all of a section without knowing where you're going? And when you've crossed into another section?
The point is to encourage exploration. That's the point.
Oh, I haven't got time for that.
And you did that in 2 days.
Well, I found like all of them but 3 without a guide, and then I went, I'm just going to use a guide for the last 3.
Did you ever use fast travel?
Yes.
I didn't have it for most of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's interesting, like, to shows how powerful the PS5 now is. Even when you change between Miles and Peter, how like instantaneous that is, and even fast travel, how quick. It just shows how powerful the console's gotten now.
Like, even the swing speed, that you can't do that on PS4.
No,
because it just wouldn't be able to load it quick enough off of the hard drive.
How good was Miles and Peter every time? That man.
Oh, when they
yeah. And also when you'd have the team up, Spider-Man's bashing a guy, and then Miles will swing past like they showed in the trailer, and he's like, I just love those things, man.
Actually, the only other negative graphics between them, when you're fighting the Venom symbiotes and you do a finisher and you pull their bodies out, I kept seeing the same type of character over and getting pulled out of the suit. I'm like, oh, they could mix that up a bit.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
They kept just pulling out the same like 4 type of people. I'm like, oh, come on, they recycled that pretty quick there. Sort of thing. What do you? All right, what do you guys?
Pay too much attention to it. That's why.
Yeah, fair.
What do we rate it? Well, I am the wrong person to ask that because of how many little games I've played in the last 15 years. But for me personally, man, like, I don't have much to compare it to, because since getting the PlayStation, the only games I've really played is Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 1, all 3 Spider-Man games.
It's a pretty good collection you got going there.
That what was that dark one that I mentioned to you the other day that you said was just a copy of
Callisto Protocol?
Callisto Protocol I've been playing.
I think
the
old
Ninja. Okay, well, I played the old Ninja Turtles game as well, like the old one. But okay, so anyway, sorry. For me, this is like, I hate to say 10 because that means it's perfect, but I can't think of anything else, man. Because the Venom, like, it's 10. I just loved it.
This is a bit of a tangent, but this isn't even the best game I've played this year. If I'm going to think about the best game I've played this year, I think it's Zelda.
I've heard the same, yeah.
But
which they just announced they're making a movie now. I don't
generally give a score. I like to just give the information to the people and let them make up their own mind. But if I was to score it an 8, I reckon.
Yeah, we got an 8.5 probably. Compared to the first one, they definitely stepped up like what they've done. If you even just compare it to the 3 games, it blows them like well out of the water, the first 2 sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, wicked.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today and sticking with us for this long video, ladies and gentlemen. We really hope you appreciate it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We appreciate it. And we really hope that you got some info out of it. Hopefully we didn't spoil anything for you before that little banner came up. This has been AussieVerse. We've really enjoyed this video. I have. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us again. AussieComicDude, that is such a cool name. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure, man. You ever want to come back on anything, please let me know, man. You're always more than welcome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I always appreciate coming on.
Of course, mate. And don't forget, these will be in the description. You want to check these boys out individually, go to this link for Ryan's YouTube channel. If you want to know more about gaming and all sorts of stuff, his channel has really been kicking off and he's been doing some great material, which even AussieComicDude has said himself that he's been watching and really loving. And speaking of him, go check out his Instagram right there. He shows off his collection, his thoughts on things. Really stand-up guy if you haven't gathered that from this conversation. And last but not least, we are always and proudly sponsored by Comx. If you're not sure who they are, please go check out the website. It is an honest to God great place to go see, because not only do they have all of the information about where you can buy all comics in Australia, really, they also sell their own comics of all independent titles, and they always ship it with one flat shipping rate. And you normally don't get that anywhere. More that you buy, the heavier the cost is. Not with Comx. And if that's not good enough for you, well, then I've got a little video here where I still had long hair. Creators, comic book artists, comic book illustrators, you want to know where to go to buy anything about Australian comics books, and you go to Comx. Because what's the best thing about Comx? They bring Australian creators together, and not only that, they have one flat shipping rate. 10 comics, it doesn't matter. They don't care. They will ship it at one price. Comx, ladies and gentlemen, go find out.